Now let us say assembly language. We generally use symbolic names to write a program. A complete set of symbolic names and rules for their use constitute an assembly language. A complete set of symbolic names and rules for their use constitute an assembly language. The set of rules for using the mnemonics in the specification of complete instructions and program is called syntax of the language. Programs written in an assembly language can be automatically translated into a sequence of machine instructions by a program called an assembler. The user program in its original alphanumeric text formal is called a source program, and the assembled machine language program is called an object program. For example, move or not, comma, sum. The term move represents opcode for operation performed by the instruction. Add hash 5, R3 adds number 5 to contents of register R3 and puts the result back into the register R3. Assembler directives. Directives are the assembler commands to the assembler concerning the program being assembled. These commands are not translated into machine opcode in the object program. See the figure. EQ informs the assembler about the value of an identifier. See the figure for the 2.18. Example sum equal 200 informs assembler that the name sum should be replaced by the value 200. Origin tells the assembler about the starting address of memory area to place the data block. Example origin 204 instructs assembler to initiate data block at memory locations starting from 204. Data word directories tells the assembler to load a value into the location. Example n data word 100 informs the assembler to load data 100 into the memory location n204. Reserve directive is used to reserve a block of memory. Example num1 reserve 400 declares a memory block of 400 bytes into 400 bytes is to be reserved for data. And the directive tells the assembler that this is the end of the source program text. Return directive identifies the point at which execution of the program should be terminated. Any statement that makes instruction or data being placed in a memory location may be given a label. The label say n or num1 is assigned a value equal to the address of that location. General format of a statement. Most assembly language requires statements in a source program to be written in the form label, operation, operands, comment. Label is an optional name associated with the memory address where the machine language instruction produced from the statement will be loaded. Operation field contains the opcode mnemonic of the desired instruction or assembler. Operand field contains addressing information for accessing one or more operands depending on the type of the instruction. Comment field is used for documentation purposes to make program easier to understand. Now let us see assembly and execution of programs. So programs written in a assembly language are automatically translated into sequence of machine instructions by the assembler. Assembler program replaces all symbols denoting operations and addressing modes with binary codes used in machine instructions, replaces all names and labels with their actual values, assigns addresses to instructions and data blocks starting at address given in origin directive, insert constants that may be given in data word directives, reserves memory space as requested by reserved directives. Two pass assembler has two passes. First pass work out all the addresses of labels. As the assembler scans through a source program, it keep track of all the names of numeric values that corresponds to them in a symbol table. Second pass generate machine code substituting values for the labels. When a name appears a second time in the source program, it is replaced with its value from the table. The assembler stores the object program on a magnetic disk. The object program must be loaded into the memory of the computer before it is executed. For this, a loader program is used. Debugger program is used to help the user find the programming errors. Debugger program enables the user to stop execution of the object program at some points of the interest and to examine the contents of various processor registers and memory location. Now let us see basic input-output operations. Consider the problems of moving a character code from the keyboard to the processor. See the figure 2.19. For this transfer, buffer register data in and a status control flags sign are used. When a key is pressed, the corresponding ASCII code is stored in data in register associated with the keyboard. Sign is equal to 1 when a character is typed in the keyboard. This informs the processor that a valid character is in data in. Sign is equal to 0 when the character is transferred to the processor. An analogous process takes place when characters are transferred from the processor to the display. For this transfer, buffer register data out and a status control flag says out are used. S out is equal to 1 when the display is ready to receive a character. S out is equal to 0 when the character is being transferred to data out. The buffer registers data in and data out, and the status flags sign in and sign out are part of circuitry commonly known as device interface. See the figure 2.19, 2.20. Some address values are used to refer the peripheral device. Buffer registers such as data in and data out. No special instructions are needed to access the contents of the registers. Data can be transferred between these registers and the processor using instructions such as move, load, or store. For example, contents of the keyboard character buffer data in can be transferred to register R1 in the processor by the instruction move byte data in R1. The move byte operation code signifies that the operand size is a byte. The test bit instruction tests the state of one bit in the destination, where the bit position to be tested is indicated by the first operand. Now let us see stack. A stack is a special type of data structure where elements are inserted from one end and elements are deleted from the same end. This end is called top of the stack. See the figure 2.14. The various operations performed on a stack. Insert. An element is inserted from top end. Insertion operation is called push operation. Delete. An element is deleted from top end. Deletion operation is called pop operation. A processor register is used to keep track of the address of the element of the stack that is at the top at any given time. The register is called stack pointer. If we assume a byte addressable memory with a 32-bit word length, first the push operation can be implemented as subtract #4, sp move new item, sp. The pop operation can be implemented as move sp, item add #4, sp. Routine for a safe pop and push operation is as follows. See the figure. Now let us see queue. Data are stored in and retrieved from a queue on a FIFO basis. Difference between stack and queue. One end of the stack is fixed while the other end rises and falls as data are pushed and popped. In stack, a single pointer is needed to keep track of top of the stack at any given time. In queue, two pointers are needed to keep track of both the front and the end for removal and insertion respectively. Without further control, a queue would continuously move through the memory of a computer in the direction of higher addresses. One way to limit the queue to a fixed region in memory is to use a circular buffer. Now let us see subroutines. A subtask consisting of a set of instructions which is executed many times is called subroutine. A call instruction causes a branch to the subroutine. See the figure 2.16. At the end of the subroutine, a return instruction is executed. Program resumes execution at the instruction immediately following the subroutine call. The way in which a computer makes it possible to call and return from subroutines is referred to as its subroutine linkage method. The simplest subroutine linkage method is to save the return address in a specific location, which may be a register dedicated to this function. Such a register is called link register. When the subroutine completes its task, the return instruction returns to the calling program by branching indirectly through the link register. The call instruction is a special branch instruction that performs the following operations: store the contents of PC into the link register, branch to the target address specified by the instruction. The return instruction is a special branch instruction that performs the operation branch to the address contained in the link register. Now let us see subroutine nesting and the processor stack. Subroutine nesting means one subroutine calls another subroutine. In this case, the return address of the second call is also stored in the link register, destroying its previous contents. Hence, it is essential to save the contents of the link register in some other location before calling another subroutine. Otherwise, the return address of the first subroutine will be lost. Subroutines nesting can be carried out to any depth. Eventually, the last subroutine called completes its computations and returns to the subroutine that called it. The return address needed for this first return is the last one generated in the nested call sequence. That is, return addresses are generated and used in a LIFO order. This suggests that the return addresses associated with subroutine calls should be pushed onto a stack. A particular register is designated as the SP stack pointer to be used in this operation. SP is used to point to the processor stack. Call instruction pushes the content of the PC onto the processor stack. Return instruction pops the return address from the processor stack into the PC. Parameter passing. The exchange of the information between a calling program and a subroutine is referred to as parameter passing. See the figure 2.25. The parameters may be placed in the registers or in memory location where they can be accessed by the subroutine. Alternatively, parameters may be placed on the processor stack used for saving the return address. Following is the program for adding a list of numbers using subroutine with the parameters passed through registers. Now let us see stack frame. Stack frame refers to locations that constitute a private workspace for the subroutine. The workspace is created at the time the subroutine is entered and freed up when the subroutine returns control to the calling program. See the figure 2.26. 2.27 shows an example of a commonly used layout for information in a stack frame. Now let us see frame pointer FP is used to access the parameters passed to the subroutine and to the local memory variables. The contents of FP remains fixed throughout the execution of the subroutine, unlike stack pointer SP, which must always point to the current top element in the stack. Operations on stack frame. Initially, SP is pointing to the address of the old TOS. The calling program saves 4 parameters on the stack. See the figures 2.27. The call instruction is now executed, pushing the return address onto the stack. Now SP points to this return address and the first instruction of the subroutine is executed. Now FP is to be initialized and its old contents have to be stored. Hence, the first two instructions in the subroutine are move FP, minus SP, move SP, FP. The FP is initialized to the value of SP, that is both FP and SP point to the saved FP address. The three local variables may now be pushed onto the stack. Space for local variables is allocated by the executing instruction subtract #12 comma SP. Finally, the contents of the processor registers R0 and R1 are saved in the stack. At this point, the stack frame has been set up as shown in the figure 2.27. The subroutine now executes its task. When the task is completed, the subroutine pops the saved values of R1 and R0 back into those registers, removes the local variables from the stack frame by executing the instruction add #12 comma SP, and a subroutine pops saved old value of FP back into the FP. At this point, SP points to the return address, so the return instruction can be executed, transferring control back to the calling program. Now let us see stack frames for nested subroutines. Stack is very useful data structure for holding return addresses when subroutines are nested. When nested subroutines are used, the stack frames are built up in the processor stack. See the figure program to illustrate stack frames for nested subroutines. The flow of execution is as follows. The main program pushes the two parameters param2 and param1 onto the stack and then calls sub1. Sub1 has to perform an operation and send a result to the main program on the stack. See the figure 2.28 and 29. During the process, sub1 calls the second subroutine sub2 in order to perform some subtask. After sub2 executes its return instruction, the result is stored in register R2 by sub1. Sub1 then continues its computations and eventually passes required answer back to the main program on the stack. When sub1 executes a return statement, the main program stores this answer in memory location result and continues its execution.